Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. We're continuing our reading of this radical feminist book, The Sexual Revolution. Long title of Modern Fascism and How Feminists Fight Back. It is definitely a bunch of malarkey, as they say. However, this is the philosophy they're pumping into the minds of the youth, and it is something that wants to attack Islam due to the values it holds. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to tear it to shreds as much as we can. Let us begin. Gender roles and gender stereotypes are imposed on our bodies from birth without our consent. I told you. You see that? I told you how they weaponize the word consent. So gender roles, so a woman cooking for her husband, nurturing the children, a man providing, everything Islam represents of the gender norms, she finds that to be oppressive and wrong. She wants your children to not conform to that approved method of expression. And gender stereotypes, she uses the word stereotypes as the negation. When we think of stereotypes, we think of it always in the negative sense. You know, racial stereotypes are, some of them reign true and they're so generalized and they've been seen that a pattern has arisen, therefore a stereotype has been identified and then is used in comedy, right? But she's using the stereotypes in the terms of a negative form so that it brings upon a anger in you. Because when someone stereotypes you in a negative way, not a funny way, you want to stop it and you want to prove to be different. So when she says gender stereotype, she wants you subconsciously to say, well, I'm not like this princess in a castle, therefore I must not be a woman. Do you see what I'm saying? It's all sort of type of sophistry here. Now she said imposed. So again, remember how she said that there's this authoritarian nature view of gender. Okay? She uses strong language. She calls those who conform to the blessed way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us, the way the Prophet, peace be upon him, approves of. Because remember, the Prophet, peace be upon him, in a Sahih hadith said that he cursed men who dress like women and women who dress like men. She calls that authoritarian and evil and wants to rebel and cause revolution against that sanctioned, approved way of showing your nature. Okay? So when she says imposed upon, she was like, yeah, like she's using again victim and victor consciousness. She wants you to feel like she's helping you by not imposing upon you a standard that is sanctioned by God. Right? Very subversive language. Then she says consent. Now notice the trickery here. She says bodies from birth. She doesn't want you to raise your baby as a girl or a boy, but as gender neutral freaks. To confuse them. This will erode masculinity even further. She has made it clear in this book that she's against heterosexuality, masculine men, and she specifically hates white straight men. Okay? She hates what Allah loves, because Allah loves heterosexual men of all colors. Now she does a trick here to say she only hates white men so that you don't realize that she also hates every race and ethnicity if they are straight. She's very smart in her sophistry here, but her riddles aren't really standing up to aware people, alhamdulillah, by the permission of Allah. So she's basically saying here, if you read between the lines, she wants parents to say, we don't have a girl or a boy, we have a they, them when the baby's born, even though the gender is this is right there. It's a boy or it's a girl. Now the oxymoron is also here as well because, well, the irony rather, if you are going to impose gender neutrality on the baby, you're imposing it on them. So this is the funny part, is no matter what you choose, if you're an atheist, you're imposing atheism on your kid. You have to select a compass to guide your children as they grow. You cannot not do that. So if you're going to deny reality, even when the genitals are staring at you in the face, when your baby's born, it's a girl or it's a boy, they're trying to trick you and say that it's not the genitals that tell you it's a girl or boy, but it's in their head. And then comes in the puberty blocker argument. Well, if you consent to not imposing gender roles and stereotypes on your baby, you should put them on puberty blockers to deny their full expression of their biological nature. So they want you to be hooked on big pharma from a very young age to prevent the biological process that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put into every human being, so that they can not fully form. Okay? This is very sinister. Very sinister. And the process of learning to occupy the gender you have assigned is often traumatic. No, it isn't. No, it is not. And even if it was traumatic, you grow from it. One interesting thing is if you look at the tribes of North America, they would have a coming of age ceremony for the young men, and it was usually a very tough trial. Vision quest, you name it, but the boy came back as a man. Cultures, if you look at anthropology, they do have certain rituals and ceremonies and customs, whatnot, where a boy becomes a man. Islam, I'm slowly learning how, what the Sharia would say, how when you get your puberty, right? But cultures have events also that are not haram, from my understanding, where you take the first time you take your kid hunting, when you have your first child, you are a woman. You have really, truly become another level of consciousness of woman. Even if you did it badly, you still went through the pain. And your area was a portal for a soul to exit. You can never undo that. It happened. If you didn't grow from it as much as you thought you would, that's a shame. But it happened nonetheless, and you did change after. Just like when a woman has intimacy for the first time, she'll never can go back to not having that. It's there forever. If someone murders somebody, it's on your consciousness forever. You cannot escape that. Certain things are there in your mind forever. So, when she says occupy the gender, when you're learning to occupy the gender that you have been assigned, you see how she's playing games here? She's saying gender is imposed. It's assigned. They don't give their consent. She really is doing everything she can to format her sentences grammatically to support her satanic philosophy, her inverted agenda, which subverts the religion of Islam and Christianity and reality, right? It's really clever the way she's done it. This is why Muslim women in particular have to start getting at what it means to be a Muslim woman in all its ways. Whether you are on the farm, whether you're hunting, whether you have to be the breadwinner of your family, whatever it is, whether you're the third wife, the fourth wife, women sharing their experiences, helping other women to become better versions of themselves is necessary to help save these young girls from lost confusion about what it means to be a woman. Okay? What's brilliant is that the Muslim manosphere that is not involved in red pill is really helping young men to figure out what it means to be a man in a very unique and creative way, right? And it's not traumatic. And even, you can't escape trauma, okay? You can't. Life is hard. Deal with it. This escapism that these people want to do, it's traumatic trying to figure out how to be a woman. It's like, okay, so maybe you wore a dress that you didn't like and you felt weird in it, so you wore pants and now you're traumatized. You need to have a little bit thicker skin, honey. Right? I have a more dominant side of female expression because I had to, whereas one of my sisters is more dainty and feminine. We're still women. And that's still an expression of womanhood. We will never know what it's like to be a man because our soul does not occupy the physical body of a male's body. And the nervous system, the testosterone, all that encompasses being a man biologically is not affected upon our soul. Our soul and our consciousness cannot express itself through the male paradigm. No amount of fake pills can do that. No beard can download consciousness of what it means to be a man. Alright? A woman growing a beard, that is. She's not going to magically know what it means to be a father. She'll always act from a female perspective because she's bound by the biological shell. She cannot escape the shell. The body is this shell. It's a confine. You cannot escape it. You can mentally in your head and think you can take psychedelics, you can do all these drugs, go completely out of your mind and think that you're a space alien. But at the end of the day, your soul is there, and the only thing you've done is rot away your mind. You have not escaped, and you'll never occupy the other gender. Because you will never have testicles. You will never have the male nature. It just isn't possible. You won't even have the physical strength. And if you're going to take a bunch of steroids as a woman, get ripped abs, huge biceps, and think that somehow makes you a man, it does not. Because men have this nature to protect in a different way than women. They complement each other. And so, you can never know. I'll never know what it's like to be a dragon. I'll never know what it feels like to be a bald eagle soaring above the mountains in the deep winter. I'll never know what it feels like to eat meat as a tiger. It's just not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. This isn't Game of Thrones where you're Brandon Stark occupying the mind of a direwolf. It's just not the way it works. Not the way it works. A great many cis men I interviewed in the course of writing this book carry profound emotional scars from decades of savage social policing. Savage social policing, emotional scars that are profound, cis men. So, I mentioned earlier that I heard from a black power type of male individual. He says the Rainbow Mafia, essentially, decided to use this word cis because it sounds like cyst, which is something that a lot of women fear. If you have a cyst on your ovaries, you're like, oh, this is bad. I could become infertile. It's going to have to get removed. It's like a tumor. This is horrible. So they use the word similar to that in order to evoke this emotional type of disgust within you. Like, cis men, when in reality you should be like, oh, straight men. Straight has like a strong, healthy vibe to it. Think about it. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us stay on his straight path, stay on the way, okay? Don't go off into the crooked path. We think about going on an approved route. So when they don't want to use the word straight, it's because they want you to be on the deviant part, so they use a more clever, sinister sounding word as cis, because it sounds like cyst, which is a form of mind control. It's a form of getting you to really detest what it is. Now, emotional scars, the pussification of the male, right? Oh, you have emotional scars because you were on a football team, and somehow you were wimpy and they made fun of your tiny balls in the shower, in the locker room. Okay, get over it. Life is hard, right? So when she says emotional scars, she's trying to get you to wimpify the man. And then she says savage social policing. So when men hold men accountable, when the male, natural, healthy male form of masculinity is expressed, she's saying that is savage. Now, there's there's actually so many ways to look at the word savage. Used to be like, dang, that's savage, and then there's savages and barbaric and primitive, right? And then savage is also a term of no mercy. So if you think of no mercy, you think of, oh, I want to help. This evokes the motherly instinct to want to protect and coddle. A wife should not coddle her son. A mother should not coddle her son, and a wife should not coddle her husband. She can be an emotional support, but he has to be the man, be the backbone. A man must endure. The men who are dealing with the savage of war and survived World War I, World War II, and every war that's ever happened, they had to be strong and endure. They had to go into the fiber of their being and carry the trauma of that afterwards and operate in society. They had to. There was no choice. It's either survive or die. And that's how we are here today. By men going into battle, hacking each other to bits over territory. Men fighting to prevent raiders who come into villages and set things on fire. That was savage. Women are savage with each other all the time, stealing each other's husbands, gossiping, spreading rumors and falsehoods to sabotage the reputation of women, their fellow women, right? That's part of existence. The way the lion eats the wildebeest while it's still kicking is savage. The way an ant colony dismembers a queen ant they are coming upon is savage. That is the way it works. A great white shark leaping out of the water and catching a seal and shredding it while it's wiggling is savage. Okay? There are necessities to this word that we must remember. She's trying to get you to think that boys trolling each other, like not wanting, like if a boy's sticking something up his anus and another boy says, "Don't do that, what are you doing, man? What are you, gay?" That is a way of policing within the community that keeps boys straight. She's saying that's savage social policing, and it's wrong, right? In Islam, we police each other a lot. The haram police is a cliche, yet it is necessary, even though it can be abused sometimes. We must focus on ourselves, but we do try to help each other excel and be better and be the best version of ourselves. Social policing is present in the Amish community through shunning. Some call that savage. Just the cold shoulder form of shunning. So be careful with this language she's using here of emotional scars, profound social policing, imposed on our bodies from birth without our consent, learning to occupy our assigned gender. It's so traumatic, right? Like, the way that she's coming at you is like, I can totally see what you're upon. But these rhetoricians have been trained, and they're in full force trying to get at your children. So if you grapple with these texts, have prepared arguments, and have a tense discussion of knowledge with these kinds of individuals in front of your kids, your kids will trust you more than them, inshallah, and you can protect your children from these people. But if you look like unsure, insecure, like this, but if you're like, no, your kid's going to be looking at you for a reaction. You are the guidepost. You are the pillar. You're the one who has to protect them by keeping them within the confines that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted. You are their shield. You guard them in this realm. And so when you come across people like this and they're in full force, the California liberals have ruined California. They can't afford the housing. They're going to move out and take their politics with them. They're going to get into the Silicon Valley, censor you. They're going to pull all stops to push their philosophy. It's definitely a culture war. It's a war for the soul of humanity. And these people are on the opposite side of Islam, of true Islam. Now, you can have liberal imams who are fake and bend the knee. We can't do takfir on them. But true Muslims have to really recognize the threat these people hold towards the consciousness of our ummah. Okay? And we have to study them just like you would in the art of war. Study them, know their moves, know their rhetoric, know their games, understand their sophistry, and through that, inshallah, we will prevail. But again, she's quite deviant. She ends the sentence with, of being punished for any deviance from perceived masculine norms. Again, this type of really serpent-like language, just creeping on in, is how they get inside like a worm in the brain, just right there, really getting at not helping people to come forward to the approved ways that Islam has set for us, but to deviate from that and to go into a deeper abyss of confusion and decadence. It's quite a tense topic, but it has to be discussed. It's very important. And don't let them always say, if you disagree with us, it's hate. It's like, well, to me, this rhetoric of her is very hateful, so who wins? If we're going to play games of, you're full of hate, you can't talk, then we're going to have a problem here. And the fact that they want to shut everyone down for hate speech shows that their arguments actually are very weak. Their arguments can't stand on their own. They can't stand on their own ideas. So they have to go behind the banhammer in order to even stay with a facade of power. And that should tell you everything. By the way, if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/Milahan Archive. I hope to see you there. Take care and let me know what you think down below.